Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video I wanted to talk just a little bit about whether you can play World of Warcraft solo and essentially what you're kind of missing out on by playing it solo. Now, I very frequently play World of Warcraft solo. My friends or my friend group that I usually play with go through kind of phases of playing World of Warcraft, and yeah, unfortunately, their interest, wanes and waxes as it does with most people. A lot of the times, World of Warcraft is an up and down kind of game, as most MMOs are, and you get periods where you have a ton of great experience, and then you have other times where content's a bit low, and it's the end of a season, or maybe the season wasn't so good, and so you end up having to kind of like change up your time. You spend it on other games, you play other games, you focus on other games. And I think for me, like, the question of whether you can play World of Warcraft solo is going to depend a lot on whether you enjoy the gameplay of World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is an MMO, first and foremost, and ultimately at the end of the day, MMOs are meant and designed to be played at least with other groups of players, and to no extent do I think you can play World of Warcraft without pugging content or even doing LFG. Like most people will at least do raid finder, especially if they're solo, or maybe normal difficulty raids, maybe some Mythic Plus, but there has to be a level of playing the game and enjoying it with other players, even if that is in the most limited form. Could even be beating world event bosses and things of such nature. So I don't ever think you can truly play the game solo. Of course, there'll be people out there that do prefer that situation and don't want to like play in certain ways, or like want to engage with other players, and I completely understand that. And even if you're playing games or you're playing on an RP server, I can also understand that as well. Like, there is always a metric of not having to be involved with other players. For me though, what I find, that was terrible. For me though, what I find is that there's a certain level of enjoyment you can get from the game solo, and I don't think you have to be specifically involved with other players just to get a level of satisfaction out of the game. And I think it's important to understand that you don't need to feel bad because you play World of Warcraft solo. A lot of people, I think, do play World of Warcraft in this solo kind of nature and in this kind of limited extent, and I think it is super important that that's an acceptable gameplay style, because ultimately at the end of the day, not everyone has IRL friends or solid guilds or anything like that. I remember myself in the Warlords of Draenor, I played the majority of the game solo for a very, very long time, and it was kind of predominantly built on this idea that I just didn't have people to play with. Now, of course, I think the game is better with a designated guild or group of friends or people that you want to play with. I think it's super duper improved when you have a social group, not only that keeps you interested, but I think that's positive about the game. I think a lot of the times we're affected by the mindset of the players that we play the games with, and I think if you can find yourself being caught in this negative mindset almost, of like, Blizzard and Activision and WoW and all these negative things, and I think players can end up being in a situation where they maybe kind of reciprocating negative feelings. So I think you also have to decide if you're playing in an environment or a group where your gameplay is being affected negatively, because that is also a possibility. It's not just that groups have a positive influence, they can have a negative influence on players, and I think it's important that we accept that sometimes it's better to remove ourselves from a negative environment or a situation where we're being surrounded by negativity or bad interactions with other players, and instead we can focus on having positive interactions and positive environments. That's not to say that we shouldn't critique the game or be involved with players who have slightly negative perceptions or are just saying something that's true as well. Not every time we say something negative is bad. And like I said, it's also not negative if players push us as well. It's good that sometimes players get frustrated when it comes to group content. It's good that there's players that expect people to learn or to engage in the content and understand the content. I think if you just constantly expect players to not be good at the game, you will never raise the bar of the quality of player that you can expect in the game. So yeah, I think ultimately, there has to be a level of accountability in a group environment. So yes, even though I think it is better, I think it can also lead to negativity. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, for me, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think you can play the game as a solo player. I think it's rewarding, but I feel like it's not as rewarding. And as someone who's played the game for a long time solo in a lot of expansions, but also has played the game in a very positive group environment, I think for me personally, I would have to say group content is better. And I feel like it's a more enjoyable way to play the game, even if it's as light as possible. I would rather clear normals with a designated guild than clear heroics, pugging myself alone at nights. I don't know. That's just me. A lot of people maybe don't feel that way. I personally feel that way. It just feels so much better to do that content with other people. That's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on group versus solo content. But yeah, bye.